Okay, hi Colette. We look at the book of Judges now, starting in chapter 17. The last verse we had in chapter 16 says of Samson, he had led Israel 20 years. We'd like to know more about what he was doing. We have a glimpse of just a few days in his life, or a few weeks. He is listed, as we noted last time, in the heroes of faith in Hebrews chapter 11. There's Gideon and Barak, although Deborah was certainly a woman of faith in that situation. But it's Gideon, Barak, Jephthah, and Samson who are mentioned there. Those who have a little longer discussion of their activities in the book of Judges. But the chapters that we look at, beginning with 17, are something vastly different from a hall of fame of faith. In fact, we perhaps have difficulty finding any faith there, or at least faith in the way that God would have us to have it. So let's jump into that, chapter 17. These are some stories or accounts, if you will, that are not always mentioned in our younger Bible classes, but there's some things we can learn there. And there's a couple of verses in particular that were pointed out to me by my mother very early on. So I'll let you guess what those might have been as we go along. We're not told when this occurs, but now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, "The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver with me. I took it." Kind of an interesting way to begin. We'll find out what this fellow's name is later on. But evidently, he's been touched by his mother's curse. And now he says, I'm going to return the 1,100 shekels of silver, which I stole. So 1,100, that's a figure that we've seen before, isn't it? That's the amount that was going to be given to Delilah by the Philistine lords. Each was going to bring 1,100 pieces of silver. That's about 28 pounds as far as we can figure out. So it was not insignificant. So his mother said, "The Lord bless you, my son." So she's using the name of the Lord there. She's glad to get her silver back, I guess. When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, "I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord, for my son to make a carved image and a cast idol. I will give it back to you." And kind of a interesting way to bless that. She's going to make a carved image and a cast idol. What's the difference between those?
Well, I guess if you carve an idol, you would have a piece of silver and use tools to make it into some different shape or cut out various things on it, designs. But with the cast, I guess you would melt it and have a mold that you would pour it into.
If we look later in the Old Testament, in Isaiah and other places, that seems to be what they're saying. What they call the carved image may be like a wooden idol that they coat with silver, whereas the cast image is just like you say, they melt it and turn it into, carve it into something. So anyway, he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to a silversmith. So it sounds like she consecrated all 1,100, but maybe not, because she's only given 200 shekels to the silversmith, who made them into the image and the idol, and they were put in Micah's house. And kind of interesting that if you look at their conversation, that seems to be something that is not unusual, shall we say. The idols and the setting them in one's home. So anyway, that's just taken for granted. Now this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some idols and installed one of his sons as his priest. What kind of a sense are we getting in this situation? Idols, somebody is appointed a priest. This is in the hill country of Ephraim. We're not told that these are Levites. Who was the priests?
His son.
Well, was that good, bad?
Bad. He's making his own religion.
Yeah, that's right. He's making
it up.
Making his own religion. Only the descendants of Aaron were to be priests, and this fellow, from what we can tell, is just an Ephraimite. And so
they all had Levites among them, didn't they?
Well, that's going to be something that we'll read about in just a couple of verses. The Levites were not given a specific territory, but they were given a certain number of cities in which to live. So they were spread throughout Israel, but not necessarily in every town and village. They had their own places to live, and they lived in the city, and they could farm the area surrounding it. Anyway, we'll get to that. But
so at this time, Alan, there was no particular place where they were supposed to go and worship. Like later on, you had Jerusalem, where they were supposed to go and worship. But at this time, there was no specific place.
Well, we get in a couple of chapters. The guy says that I was going to go to the house of the Lord, perhaps the tabernacle. We're not told a lot about it. From what we can understand, the tabernacle was erected in a place called Shiloh.
Oh, okay.
And the observances required under the law should have been going on there. We're not told a lot, and we said we're not told a lot in the book of Judges about what's going on with the tabernacle worship. Was everything just like it should be, or was it kind of ignored, and maybe a few of the priests were over there doing something? But
it was neglected. Falling apart.
It seems very much like the true worship may have been neglected.
Alan, I had a question.
Sure.
Why do you think, help me understand, it can be understood, why the mother would have the idol in the shrine, the idol and the cast iron idol put in Michael's house when Michael's the one who stole the silver? Is that some kind? It seems kind of off.
She gets the silver back,
right?
Has these made. Why would she be doing this? It sounds like she's just kind of imitating the Canaanite families around them. They've
had idols in their homes. I see.
Yes.
I see.
What we can tell from Joshua, they failed to drive out the inhabitants of the land as they should have. Mm-hmm. And now, as was prophesied, they're being influenced and taken away from God's will because they're in an environment where there is that temptation. They haven't done what they should, perhaps we can say, to get rid of temptation, to put it far from them. And maybe that's a lesson.
I see. And it says everyone did as he saw fit in verse
That's,
6.
yeah, that verse
Yeah.
6 there
Mhm.
kind of summarizes the situation. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit.
That's what she's doing.
What's that?
That's what she's doing.
Yeah.
With the silver,
Yeah.
she's doing, she's fit.
It's interesting that the comment about the king would be made. That suggests, well, maybe this was assembled, put together, or at least that was inserted later on when they had a king. Although the king was not always a stabilizing influence, but there were some, perhaps, maybe in the time of David. Somebody said that. Because David was at least one king who kind of enforced the worship of Jehovah. We don't know exactly who assembled all this and or when it was put together, but that's what we can judge from that. We know later on a lot of kings were not those who would have enforced the right way, but led the people in error and idolatry. So it's interesting that that's it. And it's going to be repeated a couple of 2 or 3 different times in these next chapters. No king. Everyone did as he saw fit. There was no enforcement. In spite of the law providing for death in the case of idolatry and this type of thing, it's violating clearly one of the 10 Commandments.
Where were the 10 Commandments?
Yeah,
They're probably in the tabernacle, laying in a
Yeah.
closet or something.
but that's, what we have seen in our study. They're supposed to be meditating and concentrating on the law, talking about it, repeating it, but that's not being done. So this is what it leads to, and it's going to lead. This is kind of a start. It's going to lead to worse as these chapters roll on.
Did they know that they were sinning?
They didn't know.
Did they know they were sinning? Or did they know that we are worshiping true God? What they were doing, did they know that it's a sin?
If they didn't know, they should have known. As we
The reason why I'm asking this is
as we
the
said,
mother said, I'm donating this to the Lord. That means perception is he is donating it to the Lord.
okay,
Which God? And I was waiting when you read down up to where a Levite was in that house, was employed as a priest to serve the same purpose
we're
and
gonna
was paid.
we'll get to that.
Good.
As we
You see?
say in the law, people are responsible for the things they know and also for the things they should have known. Everyone on here is responsible for knowing every word in the United States Code and in Illinois Revised Statutes. Did you know that?
Mhm.
And those are a long and big set of books. But under the law, everyone is responsible for knowing that.
But there is some people who force that law, right? That's the reason why they were saying there is no king. So everybody is doing what is pleased in
Yes.
their own eyes. Good. But for this matter, the priests are those who need to force that law. Then
Yes,
the Levites,
yes. They were supposed to be leaders that would influence the people for good. Again, the priests were descendants of Abraham. Not every Levite was a priest. Well, let's go on and read about a Levite. A young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah. Now, Bethlehem we've heard of, but that was not one of the towns that was allocated to the Levites. So he had been living within the clan of Judah. He left that town in search of some other place to stay. We don't really know why, but we'll learn why as we go along. On his way, he came to Micah's house in the hill country of Ephraim. So he's going a little bit north, Judah into Ephraim. Micah asked him, "Where are you from?" "I'm a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah," he said, "and I'm looking for a place to stay." Well, he's really kind of looking for more than that, isn't he? He's looking
He's trying to manipulate God.
for a job.
I do.
But that's one of the questions that we could ask. What is he doing? Why is he on the move? He just doesn't like the environment in Bethlehem, or is there more to it? Could it be that he's been forced to move for some reason?
Seems to be looking for power. I got a note here.
On the other
Trying
hand,
to manipulate God.
you talk about the Levites. How are they supposed to be supported? Those who were serving the Lord were supposed to be supported by the sacrifices that the people made.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some of the Levites did live in these towns. Maybe it could be that he's not being supported as he should have been. We just don't know. Situation is. Micah said to him, "Live with me and be my father and priest." Again, we're told that he's a Levite. We're not told that he's a descendant of Aaron to be and authorized to be a priest. Those duties were specifically set forth, and they were supposed to rotate through the tabernacle and so on. Anyway, so the Levite agreed to live with him, and the young man was to him like one of his sons. Then Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and lived in his house. Good or bad? Doesn't seem to be that this is the way that God set things
Making
up.
it up as they go.
So first he said, "Be my father," then he said he's like your son.
Yeah, be my father, even though this is a young man. It could be that he's too young. The priesthood was for men between the ages of 30 and upward. Maybe he's under 30. Maybe he's not even qualified for that reason. But we don't know a whole lot of details. Anyway, who was the priest that he displaced? Micah's son. So we don't know what happens to him. He's displaced by Micah, by the Levite. So Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will be good to me, since this Levite has become my priest." So he's kind of making up his own religion as he goes along. And, that's, people come up with strange things. The Lord will be good to me because I do something, or because I have an image in my home, or because I do this or that person, or, that's always the temptation to kind of bargain with God. God, I'll do something for you, but then I'll expect you to do something for me. And that's not how it works.
And he's trying to manipulate God in his favor.
That's a good way to put it, to manipulate God.
People been doing that all through the centuries.
They're looking for a God kind of in their image.
And this is this back to what we were talking about earlier? This is how the other people in that country lived. They had their own idols, their own,
Right.
and that was kind of their shiny object that made them feel like God was with them, or whoever they served was with them.
Yeah. And we run into, they made offerings to these idols, and the ultimate, perversion was when they offer their children as sacrifices to idols. That especially offends the Lord. Again, that concept of bargaining with God, treating him as a person. We'll do something for you, but then you got to do something for me. And that's not exactly how it works, is it? So that's the beginning of Micah's idols. And it plays a part in the next chapter. It will get into that. In those, again, a reminder, in those days, Israel had no king. And in those days, the tribe of the Danites was seeking a place of their own where they might settle, because they had not yet come into an inheritance among the tribes of Israel. Well, we're the Danites, if we had a map of Canaan, they were to be kind of north of Judah and to the west along the coast, maybe just a little north of the Philistines. Anyway, but it says here, they say, we don't have an inheritance. Why not? Maybe they haven't put forth the effort that they should have put forth. Joshua just says, you know, there's a list there and a list in Judges of places that the Israelites didn't take that they should have. And this is one example of that. So the Danites sent 5 warriors from Zorah and Eshtaol, so that's kind of south, up north to explore, and to spy out the land and explore. These men represented all their clans. They told them, go explore the land. The men entered the hill country of Ephraim as they're heading north, and they came to the house of Micah. Well, that's okay. And they spent the night. Well, there's no hotels, so that's fairly common. We're going to see that example of hospitality, but not in a good way as we go along. That's how people travel. They spent the night with somebody. So Micah sounds like might have a pretty good size establishment. He's able to put up these spies and so on. Anyway, they spend the night. When they were near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked, maybe they recognize his dialect. I don't know why maybe they've run into him before. Maybe he's an itinerant Levite. Anyway, who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here? He told them what Micah had done for him and said, he has hired me and I am his priest. He's got 10 shekels of silver a year and his room and board. So it's better than wandering around for him. They said to him, please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful. The priest answered them, go in peace, your journey has the Lord's approval. But does it? Is it the Lord's will that the Danites should be sending spies into another part of Canaan, which is not the part that was allocated to them? This guy's evidently kind of making that up. Not kind of. Sounds like he's just telling them what they want to hear. And in a sense, maybe that's why he got the job at Micah's. Tells him what he wants to hear. But anyway, that's the way things
I
look.
think Micah know very well that the priests from Levites, not even if you are not descendant of Aaron, they are all benefit from the 10% of Israelites, the other tribes. All the Levites, either they are, descendant from Aaron or not, the Levites, when you were called a Levite, though there was a schedule of work for each and every group of them as those from Aaron's descendants are the priests. But all the other Levites are also benefit from the same 10%. So is it not a time when Israelites decided not to pay those 10% regularly to them, and the other Levites are free out to go and find a job for themselves, to feed themselves?
Well,
Is it not the way?
they were given cities to live in. I don't know if it was the Lord's will that they just wandered through the country. Certainly it wasn't the Lord's will that they be personal priests to whoever would, offer the most. And that's what we're going to see about this guy. So the 5 men left and came to Laish. Now, Laish is north. I don't know if that's in what we would call Lebanon today. I think probably it is. It would be on the border, but right up to northern part of Israel. But where they saw that the people were living in safety, like the Sidonians, unsuspecting and secure. I mentioned Lebanon because Sidon is a city of today, and it's located in Lebanon. And this place is evidently kind of near there. Since their land lacked nothing, they were prosperous. Also, they lived a long way from the Sidonians and had no relationship with anyone else. Kind of an unusual description. And we read about the same thing later on in verse 27. They were a peaceful and unsuspecting people. And this is the part of these chapters that was often, but sometimes cited to me by my mother. What do you suppose the lesson was that she had in mind when she thought of Laish? They lived by themselves. Sounds great. They lived by themselves. They were peaceful. They were prosperous. But when a crisis came, they had nobody to help them. They had nobody to help them. And the point being, we need one another. We need help from one another from time to time. That's why there's a church. That's why we have a congregation of people. That's why we meet together. Because we may, things may go well for a long time, but ultimately we're going to need help in some way or another. Of course, my mother lived in an era where collective security was a major principle. Why?
Depression?
Well, depression and war.
No.
And war. They had fought a war where collective security was preached as a great force for good, and one of the causes of what?
Who?
The United Nations.
Oh.
And the collective effort to bring down the dictators. Anyway, but the real point is we need to have people that we can call on for help. And if we don't have that need right now, we need to be available to help other people. The implication here is if they'd maintained friendly relations with the Sidonians, they could have called for help when the Danites invaded. But they didn't have any contact with them and seemingly didn't want any. So what happens? Well, we'll get to that. But anyway, I just always remember that from my much younger days.
It's a good lesson, yes.
Yeah.
Anytime.
So the spies returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers, and asked them, their brothers asked them, how'd you find things? And now listen to what they say. Come on, let's attack them. We have seen that the land is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people and a spacious land that God has put into your hands, a land that lacks nothing whatever. What, maybe, what does that remind you of? Maybe that's the opposite of the report that the 12 spies gave when they were sent out by Moses into the promised land. Maybe these are the words that they should have gotten back to Moses, and if they had, and if they moved, maybe they wouldn't have had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. Anyway, that was all part of God's plan. But anyway, that's the positive that should have been stated about the promised land to begin with. Come on, let's attack them. We have seen that the land is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to do something? Maybe that's a question that is worth considering. It was asked to the Danites. From what we can tell, this wasn't God's will that they take over this northern area. But they thought that it was. At least they were enthusiastic. Why don't you do something? Aren't you going to do something? That's a good question to keep in our minds, or somewhere that it comes before us. Aren't you going to do something? Maybe we'd add, for the Lord. And that's what the Lord, again, the Lord could have cleared out the Canaanites by himself, but he wants his people to do something. And he wants them to, like when Jericho, he wants it, we're talking about that Sunday morning, but we're talking about Jericho. The Lord wanted them to do something, even if it's just walking around the city and yelling and blowing on trumpets. But he wants the ultimate victory to be seen as his. He wants us to obey, but he wants it to be clear that the victory is his, not ours. Gideon had an army of 30,000. The Midianite army was 132,000. 120,000 were killed, and there were 12,000 left. Anyway, so that was a 4-to-1 ratio. But the people could have said, well, our warriors are superior, and so we beat them, even though we only had 25 or 24% of what they did. But the Lord said, no, I want you to cut back to 300, and then you'll see that the victory is yours, but it was God's victory. Anyway, that's a sermon. But it comes to mind when we read these things. Aren't you going to do something? Then 600 men from the clan of the Danites, armed for battle, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. On their way, they set up camp near Kiriath Jearim in Judah. This is why the place west of Kiriath Jearim is called Mahanedan to this day. From there, they went to the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. 600 warriors now are showing up at Micah's house. Before it was 5 spies. Mm-hmm. Then the 5 men who had spied out the land of Laish said to their brothers, do you know that one of these houses has an ephod? We didn't mention that, but they made an ephod. Who else made an ephod? Well, they made one for the high priest back in Ephesus.
Gideon.
But in Judges,
Gideon.
made an ephod. It's like
Aaron wore it, didn't he? Did Aaron?
Gideon.
Okay.
Gideon.
Gideon decided he would make an effort later, but it became an object of idolatry to the people anyway. So anyway, oh, Micah has an effort. And other household gods, a carved image and a cast idol. Now, you know what to do. You know what to do. Sounds like film noir. You guys know what to do, right? What? So they turned there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites, armed for battle, stood at the entrance to the gate.
No escaping.
Those guys would be known as enforcers. Enforcers. They don't have to do anything. They just stand there. And
Intimidated him, that's why.
intimidation.
Give it anything you want.
That's right. That's right. These are the tough guys. Anyway, they turned there and they greeted. So the 5 men go in. They've been there before, and the priest and the 600 iron men stood in. When the men went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the other household gods, and the cast idol, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" So they're carrying these away. They answered him, "Be quiet, don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and priest." I don't know where they get that father and priest, but this still a young guy, you know. So, isn't it better that you serve a tribe and clan in Israel as priest rather than just one man's household? Then, you know, that's the kind of question, you know, that they're making him an offer that he can't refuse, in other words, they think. And sometimes people stand up to those temptations, but not this guy. Then the priest was glad. He took the ephod, the other household gods, and the carved image, and went along with the people. So what's happening here? This guy he's got a better offer than the 10 shekels a year in room and board that Micah's given him. Now he can maybe get paid by several. But anyway, that's what's going on in Israel as it goes on in our own time. What's the bottom line here? Money talks, especially when you've got the heavy guys at the gate. If you say no, well, you know, those guys. So, and that, in a sense, that's our society too much, isn't it? Money talks. Money talks. And our morals, our sense of right and wrong can too often be bought. It's pretty overt here, but it takes a real introspection with the God's word in our hearts to make sure that we're not subject to that also. To what extent are the decisions that we make based upon what's good for the Lord's church, or what's good for others, rather than just what's in it for me? So anyway, that's I think that we can say, well, this is just something that happened, 1,600 years ago. I think 3,600 years ago. It was about 16, maybe 1400 BC. Anyway, when they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. They finally figured out what's going on. They shouted after them. The Danites turned and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you that you called out your men to fight?" He replied, "You took the gods I made and my priest and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask, what's the matter with you? So Micah's misses what this don't. The Danites answered, don't argue with us, or some hot-tempered men will attack you, and you and your family will lose your lives. So they have to slink away. The Danites were on their way. Went there, and Micah, seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back home. So that's kind of the story of Micah and his gods. He had them, and then he lost them. But that if he has Jehovah God, there's no one that can come and take him away. Maybe that's what we can think about in that connection. Any other? Then they took what Micah had made and his priest and went on to Laish against a peaceful and unsuspecting people. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationship with anyone else. The city was in a valley near Beth Rehob. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it after Dan, after their forefather Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idols, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of the captivity of the land. We learn that Levite's name, anyway, he's Jonathan. And we learn that he's the son of Gershom, the son of Moses. We hear of two sons of Moses in the Bible, Eleazar and Gershom. Gershom is a name that means stranger. It's also the name of, I'm trying to figure out his uncle, or great uncle. Levi's son had three sons, Kohath, Gershom, and Merari. And then Moses, his, I'm trying to think, what, great grandson, yes. Anyway, this guy's related to Moses, this Gershom. If that's the case, if this is just a grandson of Moses, that suggests that these events take place pretty early in the occupation of Canaan, because Joshua lived and then, his successor elders lived. And then we're told that the people started doing bad things. And, but this would be early on. Anyway. Yes.
Alan, what happened to and I'm sorry if I missed it, I've been trying to find it. What happened to the Levite that Michael installed? The one that he made a priest?
Well, this is him. He's the one, the Danites said, we're going to offer you more if you come with us. So he goes,
he's not with Micah anymore then.
What's that?
Not with Mike anymore.
No, Micah goes back home to Ephraim.
Okay, after he takes all of his, I was like, where is that young priest?
This priest
Yeah.
now leaves him and becomes the priest of the Danites up north. So, also this suggests that the family of Moses is kind of corrupted by Jonathan. So
is it fair to say that the priest is now a Danite?
This guy becomes
a Danite, a priest to the Danites. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not worshiping as they should. They're not serving God as they should if they're hiring this guy. Because we know that he's not a descendant of Aaron, he's a descendant of Moses. He's not qualified to be a priest.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And so that all of this about Micah and his gods, I think, is set up as a story of religious perversion, yes, but also politically as to why Dan is up north instead of where he should be in the middle. That's Israel then is described in many places in the Old Testament as extending from Dan in the north to Beersheba, another town in southern Judah. That's the extent of Israel in the Bible, from Dan to Beersheba. But it really shouldn't have been, because Dan shouldn't have been up there. And there it says, until the captivity. When we think of the captivity, we usually think of the Babylonian captivity. But there was, of course, the Assyrian captivity before that, and perhaps other captivities. The point being that Dan is now an outlier to the north. And instead of being surrounded by other Israelites, they're kind of to the extreme, and they're subject to being the first ones that are taken over by an invader. So it's kind of a danger. They're on the point, if you will. What else about Dan do we know? Looking all the way to the last book of the Bible, Revelation. Anything come to mind? In Revelation, they talk about the 144,000, and they talk about the tribes of Israel in Revelation chapter 7. But you know something, when they list the 12 tribes there, Dan is missing. An interesting thing. I mean, he's a son of Jacob. Yeah, he was a tribe. But when it comes time in Revelation to list the 12 tribes, Dan is missing. I wonder why. We have no idea. But perhaps some speculate that the reason for that is because Dan goes where they're not supposed to be, way back in the time of the judges. So that's Micah and his gods.
Samson was from Dan.
What's that?
Samson? I mean,
Samson, Eshtaol, where these spies and so on come from, is the place where Samson's father Manoah was located. Samson was a Danite, if you will, and lived there. So maybe during his time, maybe this is after the time of Samuel. We don't really know. It's hard to put these chronologies together. When they talk about the judges, they'll say this judge, then after him, and it sounds like they're consecutive, but who knows? Many people think that it was, some of the judges were in different parts of the country,
Concurrent.
working at the same time.
Yeah.
Concurrent. It's a word to talk about. Anyway, any other thoughts? Did I confuse everybody here?
Yeah, to me, I'm thinking what we are going through here give us a lot of lesson to think about, because what is happening to Israelite then is an ignorance, because they feel that what we are worshiping now, God is involved. Especially when he get the priest, to think that everything is settled. It's ignorant. It's ignorant, because why am I saying this? Even today, if we don't even know, some of the churches do things ignorant, thinking that what we are doing is okay.
Yeah.
Outside the Bible.
Right.
A lot.
That's right.
It's ignorant, thinking that what we are doing, God is on our side.
Right.
Once people like it, people love it, then let's move on. This happened to Jesus. The priests are there to serve the whole Israelites, not a particular person, not a particular tribe. When Jesus get to the desert, the people want to keep him there. If you look Luke chapter 4, I think 42 to 44, the people want to keep him there because they like him. But he said, no, I have to go to the other side to preach the gospel there too. That's what the priest supposed to do.
Yes.
Not to commit to, one particular people of that time.
Yeah.
So if like Jesus also say, okay, you want to keep me here, and then they say, oh, we will pay you, live here with us. They will feed you and do this and then you think that that is all, but that is not. You see? So it gives us a lot of things that we should think that not the adult particular that they are worshiping, but why are they worshiping it? They think that what we are doing, the Lord is on our side.
Yeah, they mention God and talk about, well, this is God's will. And the Danites talk about this. This is a spacious land that God has put into your hands. And even back, this is God's will they talk about. But so you're right, they just made up their own standard and tried to use the name of God. And when they're not doing what God wants. It's interesting, this 18th chapter closes here with, they continued to use the idols of Micah that Micah had made all the time the house of God was in Shiloh. Just a brief mention that what we understand as the tabernacle was in Shiloh. What's the point that they're making there? The worship of God should have been centered there. The priesthood is there. They should have been making travels there periodically throughout the year to observe the feasts, instead of, getting to be more and more like the people of the land.
It was convenient to have it nearby.
You won't have to walk so far. So it's over, that's just west of the Jordan River. We need to get a man here, but anyway. There's no mention in Judges other than that, is there, of the tabernacle and the worship. The tabernacle is going to last a long time until it's finally destroyed by an invasion. And then we lose track of the Ark of the Covenant and so on until Indiana Jones. So anyway, if you think that these couple of chapters are a troubling and horrible example of what was going on in Israel, the last 3 chapters, I think, are even worse.
Yeah.
We're going to find other kinds of perversion. We're going to find warfare among the tribes. One tribe just about gets wiped out. So come back next time for more of the same. It's far from a Hall of Fame of heroes. I don't know that we find any heroes in these last 5 chapters. So thanks for your attention, Patrick. We'll be back, right? So,
Hi, everyone.
okay.